Welcome to Ninerology, Faithful in the Trenches. I'm your host, Alan, and we're here to talk about All-Pro Fred. That's right, the Fred Warner, number 54, the tone setter, the culture setter for the 49ers defense. Now, Fred Warner, I don't think he gets talked about enough. A lot of the attention is on Nick Bosa, as it should be. He won the Defensive Player of the Year. But there's a lot of argument that Fred Warner should have been in that conversation this year for Defensive Player of the Year because of what he's done. First off, let's take a few steps back. Fred Warner has been in the league for 6 years and has missed one game. That's right, one game, which means he's available. And we always talk about the best ability is availability. And not only is he able and on the field, but also what he brings to the field. He's the one who wears the dot on the back of the helmet, which means he is communicating to the team what needs to happen. He's dissecting that offense. And the thing that sets Fred Warner apart is not just his ability to stop the run, but his ability to cover an open space. The 49ers cannot do what they do on defense without having the linebackers that can cover the middle of the field, that can get off of linemen getting to that second level to get to the running back, but also being able to run with a slot wide receiver, to be able to run with a very versatile tight end. And Fred Warner does that. The linebackers for the 49ers have always been great. You look at the Patrick Willises, you even look to the Aldon Smiths, you look back even in the day to Derek Smith and Jeff Ulbrich, then you have Navarro Bowman, you have Patrick Willis. The list goes on and on. That's one of the 49ers' strengths, has always been to develop linebackers. Even some of the linebackers that didn't end up working out, whether due to early retirement like Chris Borland, or even some off the field issues like Rootman Foster and again Aldon Smith, the 49ers have been able to almost plug and play linebackers because of how they develop them on the practice field. But Fred Warner isn't just that, he's also built to do what he does. Again, every team in the NFL is looking for their Fred Warner, somebody that can stop the run, but also somebody that can cover an open space, somebody that can set the tone and the culture, be a field general and a leader in that locker room. And that's what Fred Warner is. And he is still in his prime, 27 years old. 27 years old. Again, let's look at his numbers this past year. The past year, what he did was absolutely amazing, considering he had over 130 tackles, 132 tackles this year. He had 6 tackles for loss. He didn't have as many sacks. He had 2.5 sacks, but this is where the kicker is. He had 11 pass defenses and 4 interceptions, and that's what sets Fred Warner apart. Not only can he stop the run, shoot the gaps, be able to dissect that offense, but also he can cover an open space. He doesn't just, stand behind the lines and say, hey, I got my paycheck, I got to take care of my body. No, he's the one who is diving in, who's getting messy. He's getting at the bottom of those piles. He's getting those forced fumbles. He's getting those recoveries, and he sets the tone for this defense. I wouldn't doubt that this next year, they're going to have to take a long look at his contract, because he is the best off-the-ball linebacker in the entire NFL. Arguably, he is the best. That's right. There's nobody like Fred Warner. Now, there are others that are close to that try to imitate. But guess what? They're never going to be able to duplicate, because Fred Warner is one of one. And again, he's only 27 years old. And let's take a look at the contract numbers for linebackers. Linebackers are starting to get that bag, and number 1 is Roquan Smith as far as average per year money at $20 million a year. Number 2 is Fred Warner at 19. Then it goes to Tremaine Edmonds at 18, and there's a drop off to Matt Milano, which is about 14. Now, they're going to have to relook at Fred Warner's contract this next year, because next year his cap hit's going to be $29 million, and they're not going to want to pay that. They have to pay Brandon Ayuk potentially, and also Brock Purdy. And so I think the 49ers are going to want to do 2 things. One, they're going to want to reward Fred Warner. They want to reward their own, but also they want to also make sure that they're taking care of themselves salary cap-wise. So I would assume, let's look for a Fred Warner, not a restructure, but an actual sign him to an extension so he stays a 49er for the rest of his life. Because those are the guys that you want to keep. Those are the guys that you want to continue to reward because of what they've done, not just to the culture of the team and that defense, but also what they do week in and week out, setting the tone. He's the one that you're eventually going to retire his jersey number. And again, I don't think he gets enough notoriety. A lot of people know Big Play Fred, All-Pro Fred. But again, I don't think people know just what he brings to that defense. And so I think it's time that number 54, All-Pro Fred, gets his notice, his due, and honestly, his bag next year. Because guess what? He's going to reset the market for linebackers. Because that's what he does. He's reshaped the linebacker position, and every team wants a Fred Warner. Every team wants a Fred Warner. You don't hear teams saying, hey, where can I find my next Tremaine Edmonds? No, they're saying, where can I find my next Fred Warner? That's what they're saying. Where can I find my next field general to change that dynamic of this defense? So Fred Warner, here's to you. Number 54, continue doing what you're doing. We're hoping for that 6th Lombardi trophy, and who knows, maybe a defensive player of the year, because the last time a linebacker has won defensive player of the year, a middle linebacker, not just any linebacker, because yes, you definitely have your TJ Watts, who's an off the ball linebacker, but he's really more of a like standing outside linebacker. But the last one that was a true middle linebacker to win defensive player of the year would have been Luke Kuechly in 2013. And prior to him, then you end up having your Ray Lewis's, your Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher won it in 2005. You had Ray Lewis, who won it in 2003. But again, the last true middle linebacker to have done that was in 2013, which was Luke Kuechly. Khalil Mack, linebacker, defensive end, but again, that's outside, hand on the ground. TJ Watts, the same thing. So you have a lot of defensive ends that have won defensive player of the year, but I assume Fred Warner is going to be in the discussion this year because of what he brings, and I think he's going to take his game to another level this year, and keep an eye out for that. And All Pro Fred, this one's for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.